For my first interaction with Juliana, it went pretty well. We met up here in North Neighborhood up in the Gilchrist lobby. Just felt like it was a pretty comfortable space. We both live up here, so it wasn't too much of a struggle for either of us to get here. Um, yeah, it was a good time. We talked about kind of her upbringing, my upbringing, how to kind of compare those. Some of the more similar things I noticed were age of going to school, at least in terms of from elementary school on, was elementary school starts around 5 or 6, goes through about 18. When we end of high school is around 18, and that's when you move into college. So that was a pretty similar timeline. However, she did start going to school around the age of 2. Elementary school didn't start until around 5 or 6, though. Something different here from there is that they have it's just like a fundamental school is what they call it. It's effectively elementary school, but they go from the of 6 through 14, as opposed to having 6 or so years of elementary school, 3 or so years of middle school, and 4 years of high school. They have a whole bunch of elementary school and then only 3 years of high school, and that's the only difference. Um, that was something interesting that I found. Something else that's pretty interesting is um, their schools are pretty specifically geared toward preparing them for one test that happens at the end of their high school career. So starting in high school, as soon as they arrive there, they start preparing for this test, which is basically test knowledge for all of the subjects that you know. You work on that through the entire high school career, and you take it at the very end of your senior year. And that test kind of determines whether or not you are good enough to get into college. That goes for any public or private university in Brazil, which is very different from here. Obviously, they still had tests and whatnot, like similar courses and things, which is similar to here, but they had this kind of like overarching test that encompassed all of their knowledge, which I found pretty interesting. Um, yeah, I think they had a lot of more like a cultural events, I think, than we do, or maybe that might just be a lack of me knowing about these events and attending them. But they had like school, like like during they would have festivals for certain holidays. There was one in June, obviously. They also had a pretty interesting thing, which was their break. They only have 3 months of break per year, aside from like holidays and whatnot. But their summer break, December and January, are both gone, and then they have a winter break in June. And in June, like I was saying, they have this big festival called Festa Junina, I believe, and so it's just a huge celebration. Like all the schools, all the staff and family all get together, and they have a big party and a festival, which is a lot very interesting. It's kind of interesting to see their culture that they have behind school. It just seems like a very familial culture. What else? Yeah, so for Juliana specifically, obviously she is here at Michigan State with us, um, so that is something that was ultimately different from her Brazilian like upbringing, I guess, but is similar to ours in that she applied to American University, which is not it's not unheard of, obviously, but it's not as common as just applying to a Brazilian one, which is what that whole test is about. So she didn't really need to worry about that big test as much since she knew she was going to apply to here. And so that college admissions process was pretty similar to how ours functions, which is something that was pretty interesting. So I'm looking forward to getting back with her again this next couple of weeks, figuring out some more things, and it should be interesting. But all right, thanks.